The first ever Paradigm Symposium took place October 18th through the 21st in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jason and I attended this event that explored topics including ancient aliens, archaeology, UFOs, and science fiction. We'll talk about our experiences at this event, plus we'll discuss a recent mass UFO sighting. And we'll also talk about engineered microbes that could build structures on Mars, and other space and UFO news right now on Spacing Out.
Greetings everyone, and welcome to Spacing Out. I'm Jason McClellan.
And I'm Maureen Ellsbury. Thanks
for joining us. We're happy to be back today after taking last week off.
Yeah, we were in Minnesota, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's coming up. But first, let's talk about what's in the news. Musician Lupe Fiasco claims he was visited by extraterrestrials when he was just 11 years old.
Fiasco disclosed details of the event during a recent interview on Los Angeles radio station Power 106. The rapper explained that his extra-worldly experience occurred in Chicago, Illinois in 1993. He recalls waking up at approximately 7 a.m. shocked to find himself surrounded by blue electricity.
Unable to move, he called to his sleeping cousin, but his cousin didn't respond. Fiasco then remembers looking out the window and seeing a black disc fly down from the sky, hover, then take off out of sight. He believes a mysterious scar on his ankle is a result of the incident.
McKinnon and his mother, Janet Sharp, can finally rest easier. That's because British Home Secretary Theresa May officially announced that the UK will not extradite McKinnon to the United States.
McKinnon was charged by the U.S. with the biggest computer hack of all time in 2001 and 2002 after looking for information about UFOs and extraterrestrials in NASA and Pentagon computers, and has been fighting extradition ever since. Experts concluded that McKinnon, who suffers from Asperger's syndrome, would likely commit suicide if he was extradited to the U.S.
After multiple delays, Home Secretary May finally issued her decision on Tuesday, October 16th. As the BBC reports, May explained, "Since I came into office, the sole issue on which I have been required to make a decision is whether Mr. McKinnon's extradition to the United States would breach his human rights." She concluded, "After careful consideration of all of the relevant material, I've concluded that Mr. McKinnon's extradition would give rise to such a high risk of him ending his life that a decision to extradite would be incompatible with Mr. McKinnon's human rights."
Janet Sharp, who has been unwavering in her fight to keep McKinnon in the UK, was obviously overjoyed at May's decision. At hearing the announcement, Sharp reacted, "Thank you, Theresa May, from the bottom of my heart. I always knew you had the strength and courage to do the right thing."
So this is kind of a cool story. NASA is researching engineered microbes that could aid in the construction of structures on other worlds like Mars.
Dr. Lynn Rothschild spoke about synthetic biology at Biodesign Forum that took place on September 26th and 27th in Cambridge, UK. Rothschild, who is an evolutionary biologist and astrobiologist at NASA Ames Research Center, is involved with NASA's new Synthetic Biology Initiative. Treehugger.com reports that this initiative aims to engineer microbes that will be able to feed on the material on the planet, such as the waste produced by astronauts, and would meld together the material on the planet's surface into bricks.
New Scientist explains that the Synthetic Biology Initiative team began with a bacterium that breaks down urea, the principal waste product in urine, and excretes ammonium. This makes the local environment alkaline enough for calcium carbonate cements to form.
By feeding off waste products produced by astronauts, the microbes would create bricks by cementing together dirt on a planet's surface. The team's experiments show these microbes can create a house brick as strong as concrete in approximately 2 weeks. New Scientist points out that because microbes weigh precious little and would take up next to no space on a spacecraft, they would eliminate many of the obstacles currently faced when considering building structures on alien worlds.
But Rothschild said it will be decades before astronauts are taking microbes with them on manned missions to Mars or anywhere else.
On Friday, October 19th, officials announced that the European Space Agency will launch a new planet-hunting satellite in 2017.
This satellite has been nicknamed CHEOPS, which stands for Characterizing Exoplanet Satellite. As Space.com explains, CHEOPS will orbit the Earth at an altitude of about 500 miles and search for new exoplanets around nearby bright stars already known to harbor alien planets.
Space.com reports that the mission will run for approximately 3.5 years and is focused on improving our understanding of the formation of alien planets ranging in size from so-called super-Earths to giant Neptune-sized worlds. Identifying alien worlds with significant atmospheres is also part of the CHEOPS mission.
A few weeks ago, NASA's Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity scooped its first sample of Martian soil, and in doing so, it discovered a mysterious shiny object. But after analysis, scientists concluded that the object was likely a small piece of plastic wire casing coming from the rover.
Then, 2 weeks ago, Curiosity scooped a couple more holes in the Martian soil, revealing another shiny object. This shiny particle is different from the previously discovered object, and as Nancy Atkinson of Universe Today explains, after some analysis, the MSL science team thinks the shiny particle is just part of the soil on Mars.
MSL project scientist John Grotziner stated, as the science team thought about it more and more, the bright object is about the same size as the granules that it's in, and it's not uniformly bright. We went back and forth, and the majority of the science team thinks this is indigenous to Mars.
Lex 18, the NBC affiliate in Lexington, Kentucky, aired a news story on October 16th about a shiny cigar-shaped UFO that was photographed over Pike County that afternoon.
Longtime amateur astronomer Alan Epling witnessed the mysterious object and captured it on video with his Meade 8-inch SCT astronomical telescope. He explains that the UFO hovered in the same location for more than 2 hours, not drifting more than 10 degrees in any direction. But Epling isn't the only individual who witnessed the UFO. According to Lex 18, local police received numerous calls about the strange aerial object.
Epling posted his video online and explains in the video's description, image in video was shot with about 150 power magnification. I couldn't risk losing it by taking the time to set up a tripod or fixed mount for the camera, so I handheld the camera and struggled to keep the image steady and in the field of view. Couldn't take time to really get a good focus for fear of losing it. However, the object's periodic brightening blurred the image anyway at full brightness.
In addition to his video, Epling was able to snap several photos of the UFO. And likewise, journalist Kyle Lovren photographed a similar aerial object that same day, approximately 30 miles away in Williamson, West Virginia. Several witnesses over a wide area have reportedly seen this UFO.
According to Lex 18, the Air Force and local airports were contacted about the object in Kentucky, but so far, nobody has been able to identify these sightings.
So, Jason, I'm really curious to see what you think about this weird Lexington UFO here.
I am boggled by this sighting and the other sightings in the area, because just looking at the photo and the videos, I immediately thought, okay, this is either a hoax or a reflection or misidentification. The close-up images look like a paperclip. They really do. They look like a paperclip kind of being dangled in front of a lens.
No, I agree with you completely. And there, like you said, that's just looking at the video. But weirdly, there's reports from multiple states. So, I mean, that kind of rules out that possibility almost.
I think so. This is a mass sighting we're talking about. Lots of people have seen it in multiple states. You have the police saying that they received multiple phone calls. There have been local newspapers that have run stories about this, as well as television news stations. So the media's been covering it. People have been seeing this object. And there's also the possibility that, as other people have pointed out regarding this story, that they could be a type of a balloon, like a solar balloon or something, that have these long sort of cigar shapes. But in this case, witnesses described the object hovering for 2 hours. Now, balloons, while they do hover in place, they tend to move with the winds. So,
and it's strange too, because a lot of the weather balloons, I believe, are more dark in color usually, they say, the long-term ones. But this one, it's like 2 rods, and it looks like you can see sort of a clear film-like translucent stuff in the middle. It's weird.
Right. And, the deeper you dig into this story and the more you look at the details from the witnesses, it gets more and more interesting, because I believe the wife of the witness in Kentucky continued watching the object when he ran inside so he could upload his photos to Facebook. And she watched the object disappear and said it looked like it was sort of enveloped by something and just kind of went away. Interesting.
Well, I'd really like to review the reports that were coming in different areas, so maybe we'll do that this week and be able to update people.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. But, there are plenty of people, and, like we said, the Air Force and airports and stuff were contacted about the sighting, and of course there are plenty of people who feel that the airport or the Air Force and other organizations don't always give us the information that they have about secret projects or things like that. And somebody who was looking for that was Gary McKinnon, and depending on what you believe, he alleges that he found some pretty interesting stuff when he got into NASA's computers.
Yes, and we've gone over that before, these ships that were supposedly not in our orbit, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, at least we finally have an answer after 10 years. So he is not actually going to be extradited. to the U.S.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, I'm not going to celebrate or not celebrate it. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad there's a conclusion to it. My wife is an attorney. I have attorneys in my family. I'm not going to come out and say, yay for this guy. He did break the law. He did hack into computers, and hacking is a relative term too. The details, people will say, oh, he didn't hack. He just walked right in because their computers weren't secure. That may be the case, but that aside, he still did go into computers that weren't his and information that wasn't his.
Right.
He did break the law and should be punished for it, but...
Well, at least we can stop talking about this ruling, at least.
That's
I want to talk about something more interesting right now, which I feel is these microbes that are going to produce urine bricks on other planets. So are you ready to live in structures of that nature?
This is crazy stuff, and we talk about the technologies that are just wild and seem like they're sci-fi-ish, but these technologies exist or are being worked on for the purpose of building structures on other worlds. And this one is right along, some of the crazy ones we've talked about, like the 3D printer that would use resources that are on the planet. And these microbes would also use materials on the planet, basically, produced by astronauts and things like that. So, I don't know, it's a bizarre concept thinking about microbes that eat pee and then basically poop out bricks. So
yeah, but it's really surprising to me, this cool technology that we have that's going to be so light, that it's not going to be able to go on manned missions for decades. But when we're seeing that our next manned missions to Mars and everyone else, we're trying to get those going within the next 10 years.
I'm surprised by that too, but I think a lot of these timetables that are being put out right now are going to change and change rapidly, because we're seeing things progress so rapidly, new technologies come forward and new companies come forward that are driving all of this at such a rapid pace. Right,
and this could all change within the next couple of years, but it's still neat to see this technology developing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So microbes, yeah, we'll see. I don't know how supportive people will be, just because it's kind of bizarre to get excited about pee-eating bacteria, but we'll see where the technology takes us. Very cool stuff. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Maureen and I attended an exciting event in Minneapolis last week.
And that's the reason we didn't have a show. And this 4-day conference had some great names presenting, and if you didn't get a chance to attend this year's event, here's a brief glance inside.
We're here in Minneapolis, Minnesota for the first ever Paradigm Symposium.
That's right, we came and froze our butts off for you guys.
A little chilly.
But yeah, it's been a great event. There's been a lot of great speakers, and we've got to interact with a lot of people and fans of the show, and it's been awesome.
And something that was a lot of fun, last night was the banquet. And at this banquet, instead of having just a keynote speaker or entertainment or something, they had an entire panel of everybody who was speaking at this event. So it was really cool to see them all on stage at the same time.
This was about 15 speakers, and we're talking the caliber here. George Norrie, Eric Von Daniken, Philip Coppens, Giorgio Tsoukalos, I mean, you name it, they were there.
Yeah, for people who are familiar with the show Ancient Aliens, a lot of the people who are on that show are at this event, and they were on that panel. So there's a lot of discussion about the ancient alien topic.
And they announced season 5 of Ancient Aliens, so we'll see that next year. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff for it, new things that we'll see.
It was interesting to hear that announced here, that next season is coming, so that was really cool. And something else that's cool is we got to sit down and talk with the people who put on this event, and the brainchild behind the event is Scotty Roberts, and we got to talk with him.
So Scotty, first off, congratulations on this amazing event here.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got an incredible lineup of speakers, a great turnout, something I'm impressed by, a much younger crowd than we usually see at these events. But I'm curious that you guys have been planning this for about a year. What was the original idea behind launching this?
Boy, the original idea, it started almost as a lark between Micah and I. Standing on my driveway, talking on the phone with him, and I said, you know, we ought to do an event. I said, I'd like to do an event that's a little appeals to a higher audience. Less the fan base or a fanzine type of an event, and elevate it to people who ask questions, a little more intellectual crowd, if you will. And so we started forming this, and it was originally entitled, and this was Micah's title for the event, was, I Know! He said, let's call it the Intrepid Magazine Gralien Report End of the World Bash 2012. And I said, that's a little wordy. And so we started talking, and we got, Micah and I we go from silly to very esoteric. And in those conversations, we said, there's a new paradigm that's been going on with the whole ufological community, it seems. It's no longer, oh, I see lights in the sky and I've been abducted and I'm an experiencer, while those things still exist. It's almost like it's flipped over to that more archeological, anthropological, cosmological side of things, trying to find things that back it all up on a deeper level. And I said, it sounds cliche. I said, well, why don't we just go with the Paradigm Symposium?
And so what do you accredit this amazing turnout, like Maureen said, of younger people? Do you think it's the saturation in the media of this topic now? And
Mike and I talk about this a lot, and we had an interview with Giorgio Tsoukalos where we brought that very topic up. And what I think, now my background is I started in very conservative, fundamentalist, Baptist theological seminary and ministry. And I've morphed out of that. I've moved away from that for many reasons. But something I saw in all our conversations with Giorgio, with other people we've had, with Mike and I especially, is that it seems that people are looking for something. The old traditional answers just don't work anymore. And you can almost compare it to the political elections we're going through nowadays. Look at how the younger people are responding to this more than they ever have before. They want something different. They want, don't give me pet answers, give me something real and solid, and that means something to me. And the old stories, God bless them, the Christians, the Jews, the religious types, there's something there. We're not saying give that up. We're not saying deny faith or anything like that. But faith is just that. It's built on believing something without evidence. And the more I'm seeing young people come up and have to deal with, like my own daughters, becoming adults, they question everything.
So another exciting thing happening here is you launched your first print edition of Intrepid Mag.
Indeed. Intrepid magazine actually built out of my association with the ghost hunters. There was a point where I said, when I was brought on board with the ghost hunters, they said, what's your vision for the magazine? I said, here it is. I laid it all out. And they go, great, come on board. And I came on board, and we could never implement any of that. It just never happened. A year and a half in, when I brought it up again, I reminded everybody, here's our vision. I was told, well, we want to walk before we can run. I said, we could walk ourselves right into non-existence if we don't implement something new. And finally I said, and you'll know this reference, I said, well, so long and thanks for all the fish. And I moved on, and the very next day I founded Intrepid magazine. And we had no subscriber base, very small, and we started building from nothing. So I created, and I'm a designer, I've been an art director and a creative director in advertising for 30 years. And so I designed the whole thing as if we were going to the printing press, but then burned it to a PDF. And so we electronically distributed. And we've done this since January. Well, February was our first issue. That was a preview issue. 76 pages it ended up being. And then April of last year was issue number 1 of 2011. And we've been publishing since then. And for this event, I said, you know what? We need something special for Intrepid Mag. And we did the first print and paper issue, which was acting also as the program for the event.
I mean, it's fascinating. I really like the look of it and everything else. And
thank you.
Intrepidmag.com is where everyone can find out about that, correct?
Yes, intrepidmag.com.
Yeah, and congratulations. I think it was a great way to do it by introducing it this way and incorporating it with a program. I think that was a really good idea. It looks great. Congratulations on the event. I know you better run. You're a very busy guy with this. We'll let you get back to running around. And before we let you go, is it too premature to say if there's going to be a second Paradigm Symposium?
Let the guy breathe.
Well, we have booked the hotel, this hotel, the same weekend next year.
Okay, there you go.
That's promising.
And we've already got some people saying, let me just say this. I'll give you this one hint. We've got some people that aren't here that are very big, that are interested. We've also got all the biggest names you could list from this event have said, we will be back next time.
Wow.
So.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to hearing all about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scotty. Appreciate it.
So Scotty's partner in crime, Micah, Hank, sat down with us as well and gave us his perspective on putting together this event, as well as a little bit about his talk. Congratulations on this awesome event that's going on, that you've been working really hard on for last year.
Oh, yeah.
And so what are some of the things that happened so far in the event that you think have really highlighted what you were going for?
Oh man, you know, I tell you, we've had the most incredible speakers at this event, but what has really done it for me, truly, is being able to interact with people. You know, being able to interact with fans, you know, of these speakers, you know, who will one day be our fans as well, of course, and many of them already are. And being able to take them by the hand and look them in the eye and have them say, truly, I think this is the best event of its kind that I've been to, you know, and it's been so fun to interact with people and to hear, you know, the things that they've learned and to turn them on to new books. You know, I've been assigning reading lists for people. Yeah, so it's been fantastic. But, you know, in addition to the guests and the people who have been here as attendees, oh yeah, you know, I mean, the speakers are fantastic. Giorgio Tsoukalos has been wonderful, and George Norrie, of course, just walked into the elevator just now, and he was wonderful. And finally getting to catch up with you guys, you know, spacing out. I've been spacing out all weekend, so it seems very appropriate to be here right now.
Yeah, Scotty let it leak your original title you had for this event.
Oh yeah.
Wordy.
Well, he's got
End of the World Bash.
He's got a slightly different take on that story, you know. Yeah, he called it the Intrepid Mag Gralien Report to End of the World Bash, you know. And Scotty, of course, you know, I think that for fun, that story pretty much summarizes how this all came about. But in truth, I had joked around for a long time about doing an End of the World Bash, and so Paradigm Symposium, this maddening, you know, little trifecta of Fortean and ufological goodness. You know, it's come about out of, you know, just a lot of lighthearted kidding, and then saying, well, what could we really do to help people learn more about, you know, the nature of the cosmos and space-time? And again, you know, I'll even say this, and I want to say this because as I've told you before, you know, I respect open minds, especially for being, you know, an honest, you know, very objective medium when it comes to the study and the interpretation of strange phenomena. And for me, I don't agree with all the speakers here. My lecture on the UFO singularity, 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday, actually opened with me stating that, you know, although I don't doubt that humans have had interactions with sentient intelligences that are non-human, I do doubt the notion that maybe all these interactions in our ancient past were with flesh and blood beings who traveled here from Zeta 2 Reticuli in a starship, just to come down and build mud pies, you know, in Egypt that we call the pyramids. Now, I know it's more complex than that, and having spoke with, you know, Eric von Daniken and Giorgio Tsoukalos and some of the others that are associated with this event, you know, it's certainly helped to broaden my own perspective of things, and there are a lot of things about the ancient world that we can't explain, but I also like to maintain an open mind to the other possibilities. I have my own interpretations, and that's the beauty of an event like this, is that we can all come together, share ideas, and whether or not we agree, we can find common ground and hope to educate one another and further our own understanding of what really may be underlying all this.
It's a really important point, and I'm glad that you've done that with this event. And I think it's an important, you know, there are a lot of feedback that comes and says, why do you have this speaker when you have this speaker? People with conflicting ideas.
Oh yeah.
But I agree, it's important. You know, we have a large mass of people, and no two people think the same.
It's true. And you know, Scotty Roberts and I, we don't agree on everything. We agree on most things, as do I think the three of us. But in truth, you know, that's the thing, is that, you know, we have to learn to recognize differences and grow as a result of having those interactions and maybe taking a new perspective. There have been instances throughout this weekend where I've literally, you know, been with a speaker or a person and expressed to them, you know, I wish there was some way I could, you know, help you to understand not only my mind but my heart, and, you know, where my convictions lie when it comes to these sorts of subjects that I bring to the table. Again, you know, I propose a futurist kind of interpretation of how we can better pinhole, you know, the expectations for the ufological, you know, turns and changes that may occur in the coming years, because if we do as a civilization continue to progress technologically at not just an exponential but a greater than exponential rate, there's going to be a point after which our technology makes us aware of things that presently we may not be aware of. How are we going to respond to the nature of not only space-time and the cosmos, but ourselves when we have changed to that point? And so I think that we do have to look to the future to find answers, and it's invigorating and it's incredible, almost as amazing as how I probably got off on this tangent.
And I gotta mention this now. I'm gonna plug your book a little bit, because I love this, because Micah gets up on stage and he says, you know, I'm a gambling man, so I set my book, new book, The UFO Singularity, correct, is going to be released on December 22nd, 2012. So if the world ends, which I don't think it does, nobody will see my book.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm a gambling man, and you know, if the Mayans were right, I'm losing out big time. You know, the only people who know anything about this notion of, you know, the UFO singularity, and what I mean by that again is, you know, the point after which greater than human, present human intelligence exists here in our midst, whether that be through the manipulation of, you know, DNA in the human genome, and of course the implication or the implementation of cybernetics and things like that, whether it be through those kinds of avenues, or, you know, through the creation of artificial intelligence, or maybe just, you know, the ability to connect with kinds of, and this is a really bizarre concept, but, you know, a greater technological ability to recognize with, or recognize and connect with and learn from, you know, sentient intelligence is already in our midst that human perception cannot identify. You know, again, that's a very difficult concept to express, but by the same token, I think, again, returning to Arthur Clarke in 2001, we kind of see that. You know, they go to Jupiter, they're the physical monoliths that are found, and there is some tangible physical aspect to all this, but you know, toward the end, you know, the situation is not so much an interaction with a physical being that comes to meet them and they stand face to face and have an interaction. It's something that's almost psychedelic, something that takes place on another plane of existence. And I always found that interesting. That wasn't the inspiration for this line of thought. You know, that was something that came much later, but it ties in so well with some of the concepts of, you know, the entheogenic substances and things like that used to elicit altered states for purposes of making contact. It's almost as though what the ancients have done for, you know, centuries already, thousands of years, we will find new avenues of exploration utilizing technology. So it's the same sort of thing, just a little different. And, you know, I think that in a way the Mayan concept and some of those, you know, concepts of ancient cultures definitely work into this. And sure, you know, the world may end on December 21st, but I'm banking on that not happening.
Well, when you did ask the question to the audience, who thinks that the world is actually going to end in 2012? There was hesitant two hands.
That's right.
Sitting next to each other.
Two hands, and I didn't want you to feel bad raising your hand like that, Maureen.
But again, you know, we have so many people here with differing views. You know, you have people who believe all across the board, and it's interesting to see all of that come together.
Oh, it really is.
You did such a great job putting together this event, and thank you so much for having us out too. It's been great. It's
been my pleasure, truly, truly, and I hope to have you back next year. We'll do it again. In fact, I'll probably be seeing you guys a little sooner than that.
I think you will. You're going to get sick of us, but yeah.
Don't see that happening. You know, I can't predict the future, but I can predict a long-lasting and good friendship right here.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
We also ran into our good friend Karyn Dolan, who some of you may know from her show Through the Keyhole. Karyn, what have you been up to lately?
I've actually been speaking at several different UFO events, paranormal conferences and UFO events. I just spoke at 2 Pennsylvania MUFON events a few weeks ago on the subject of UFO research and paranormal research. I found out on my radio show that a lot of people deal with one or the other, and I thought that was kind of odd because to me, you know, I like to deal with everything, anything that sounds interesting. But I found that other researchers often, if they're UFO researchers, many do not want to talk about poltergeist activity or Bigfoot or anything that's not just lights in the sky. And also paranormal researchers, you know, a lot of times they want to talk about EVPs and spirit activity, but they're not interested in UFOs.
Right.
I think there's the issue of we don't know what we're identifying. If we call something a spirit, we don't know if it's actually what someone else might be calling an ET. We don't know what these things are. And it's nice that a lot of people are beginning to use interdimensional being because that kind of encompasses both sides. And it says we don't know, and I like that. But also I'm bringing up, letting people know about a lot of cases where you actually get both kinds of phenomena in the same event, in the same place, in the same time. And I'm finding a lot of people are not aware of that. You know, there's the spectacular Skinwalker case, which everybody knows about. But I was talking with Kathy Martin recently, and she said, oh yeah, there was all kinds of poltergeist activity in Betty and Barney Hill's house following their abduction experience. Now, I didn't know that. I came across it in conversation. And when I mentioned that during my talks, a lot of people are not aware. So I'm thinking, how many other times is this coming up? You know, how many other cases include UFO activity and paranormal poltergeist spirit activity that we're not aware of because people are focusing on one or the other.
And when you told me about, you know, what Kathy Martin said, that's incredible. I'd never heard that before.
I haven't heard that either.
We just happened to be having dinner one night, and she just very casually tossed this off, and I was like, wait, what? Wait a minute, back up.
So has she put that in any of her books?
I don't think so.
So strange
I've
that
never
she would
heard
never
her talk
mention
about
that.
that. Yeah.
You know, it seems like, to me, it's a no-brainer to be like, well, actually, there was all this other activity going on.
But she's a UFO investigator,
Right.
and it's
along
not
those
UFO
lines, there
activity,
is
so
this line with a lot of people.
right.
You know,
It's sort of like saying, so we went out and got groceries. That doesn't have anything to do with the UFO research side, so they didn't put it in.
right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I'm like, but it might be important. You don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
You mentioned your radio show. It's Through the Keyhole, is that right?
Through the Keyhole. It's on the Paranormal Radio Network, live on Friday evenings Eastern Time, 7 p.m.
Okay, great. Well, Karyn, thank you so much. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
We also got to talk with one of the speakers, Nick Redfern. You speak at a lot of conferences like this, and on a wide ranging of topics too, from cryptozoology to UFOs. And I think at this conference you spoke more about government conspiracies, isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, my sort of main areas of interest are cryptozoology, like Bigfoot, lake monsters, and UFOs. But this one was a bit of a departure, because I've done a book just recently called The Pyramids and the Pentagon, which looks at government interest in mysteries of the past. You know, everybody thinks of conspiracies. You think Kennedy assassination, Roswell. You don't think there could be a conspiracy with the government tied in with the pyramids, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Noah's Ark. But what I found was all these various ancient biblical mysteries, if you like, had a link where government agencies were looking at them to try and determine if the ancients possessed advanced technologies that maybe we've lost today and that they could weaponize for the present and the future. You know, sort of one of the theories with, for example, acoustic levitation, the idea that the pyramids may have been used by some sort of anti-gravity technology. And the military was trying to get some inspiration from these ancient legends of the stones being magically moved into the skies to try and determine if this was a technology they could use in the present and the future on the battlefield, if you like. So.
That's fascinating. And I love that you cover so many topics. And I think something that was really interesting about this particular event is last night's panel, where everyone was up there at the same time. And one of the questions addressed was the fact that there were so many younger people here at this event. And what do you think? Do you have an opinion on why this is happening here?
Well, I think a lot of people realize that, you know, we're being lied to a significant amount about a whole range of different things. And we see, and even when we're not being lied to, you know, we're just seeing a very small percentage of what's gone on in history, what's been hidden from us, the bigger picture of the world. And I think more and more people are appreciating and realizing and asking questions. You know, I don't think there's any doubt that there's like an official attempt to dumb us down. You know, just have us like a herd, you know, nice and docile and controlled. And people don't want that. People want answers to questions, and more people are asking awkward questions. And awkward questions are the ones we should be asking, you know, because they're the ones that are going to open doors. So for me, you know, and like the next generation stuff, he talked about younger people, you know, we want the kids of today to sort of get involved, because, you know, one day the guys that are in the 50s and 60s, they're not going to be around 30, 40 years, you know. Hopefully I'll be around for another 30, 40 years. But joking aside, you know, you've got to continue the generational thing to continue the work, you know. So if we can get, you know, I was encouraged that there were a lot of young people here, you know, they wanted book signing and things like that. So you know, that's such a good thing. So.
Yeah, we definitely saw the younger age group here at this conference. Are you noticing more young people at other conferences you speak at?
Yeah, it's kind of a trend, you know, sort of 20 years ago, you know, it would be all sort of very studious old people just sitting there, you know, and the word didn't go out beyond the conference. Now, you know, with, you know, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, social media, not only do people come to the conference, you know, people blog their reviews, post, you know, link it on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, you know. And that way, it's getting spread even more. And I think that's encouraging people to come forward.
Remind me of your website again.
nickredfern14.blogspot.com or Facebook, Twitter, just type me in and you'll see me.
So after 4 days of an incredible diverse lineup of speakers and topics and sweater wearing, We're going to
For
head
us.
back to Arizona here tonight.
Yeah, I think we were the coldest people here from Arizona, but it was a great event, really diverse. Like I said, so many varying ages here, varying interests, and it was incredible to interact with these people and a lot of socializing here.
Yeah,
good
and
socializing.
perhaps one of the youngest crowds I've ever seen at a conference.
Hands
of this
down,
kind.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's awesome, and I'm hoping that provides good things for the future of these conferences.
Yeah, I do too. So we're really happy we were able to come to this event, and we look forward to going to more in the future. We want to thank Scotty Roberts and Micah Hanks for having us out at the Paradigm Symposium and for all their hospitality. We had such a great time and met so many wonderful people, and some of the people we met are going to be on future episodes of Spacing Out, so look for that. But that is all for this episode of Spacing Out. Be sure to visit openminds.tv for all the latest news.
And join us again next week when we'll talk about UFOs over Florida with MUFON Florida's State Director Morgan Beal. I'm Maureen Ellsbury.
And I'm Jason McClellan. We will see you in the future.